Mastering the opening is a complicated part, and you have to know that not that many people really know how to do this. The problem comes that generally people don't know how to memorize all these complicated variations that are given by the books or they see in the master games. They don't know really why they're played, what are the basic ideas. And some of these players who try to remember or like understand that all information really get lost in that, and they get frustrated. So I have actually heard that question many times by friends and students of mine who really like chess and want to improve. How can I master the opening? Because without opening, they say, I just don't know what to play. I'm always getting out, with a bad position, or just my pieces don't stay that good, and it's like a chain reaction. So everything else that goes after that is really bad. So how can I change this? How can I improve my openings without this complexity to really read or try to remember all these hundreds and thousands, tons and tons of theoretical variations? And now I'm making this lecture in order to help some of you who have the same problem to eventually decide and master the openings in their own way. Mastering the openings doesn't require anything else but a good idea of how to study them, a good order, I'd like to say. First of all, what you need is to define what your style is. I guess every one of you has certain styles of his play where he likes, for example, to attack, or for example, other players like more to defend or probably to maneuver. I have seen even players who are more steady players. They don't want complications. They just want to stay safe and be precise. When you are any kinds of those players, maybe you can be an attacking player or a defensive player or a positional player, you have to choose opening systems that are simple for your level. For example, if you're like 14 to 1500 or even a player up to 2000, what you need is to choose simple systems that are not that difficult to learn, and basically systems that respond to your style. For example, you can be an attacking player and search to receive good positions for attack in openings like, for example, the simple Queen's Gambit declined or accepted or something like that. You need more attacking, more open positions. Now, of course, it also requires for you to know the typical games. I think that one of the things that most players miss when studying openings is that openings cannot be remembered. You have to understand them. You should not try to memorize the different variations, but you have to try and understand the ideas and the plans behind. One of the most important things that when we choose what openings really correspond to our style by like just experimenting with some of them, or eventually thinking what kinds of positions the different systems are going to give and which one do we like more. You can start studying some of the main theoretical lines and variations, but not with the idea to remember them, but to see what are the structures, to remember the typical ideas and plans that go out there. And correspondingly, in order to reconfirm that knowledge and see how it really works in practice, we can take a look and start studying the games of the specialists in these openings, of the really good players that have been using it with success, and in fact they implemented some of the most important and essential ideas. I think that most of you who really don't have that kind of an idea or might need a chess trainer or coach. Basically, that's best, because I believe that any chess trainer and coach like me, for example, and there are many other good trainers also, can basically prepare the most important or appropriate opening repertoire that will fit for your style. Nevertheless, I think that for most of you who are from a range 1000 to 7 to 1700 of Elo rating, I believe that you have to start with studying the open games. What are the open games? The open games are basically the openings that start with first e4, and then after e5, basically we have the open games. This is just a name, but they're called the open games on purpose, and it is because in the majority of those type of positions, both sides receive open positions where the pieces and the tactical knowledge of a given player can make a lot more than any kind of planning or maneuvering. Of course, the tactical ideas happen because of a purposeful plan, but often we can really win if we're really good at tactics or we like those kind of positions. I think that openings that start with e4, e5 are most useful for players from that range, because they can teach you how to use your tactical abilities in place. And after e4, e5, I'd like to show you a very simple example to see a couple of the most important ideas of studying the open games and basically what you need to do in order to master them in a better way. Now, the game was played is still in the 15th century. Many players will say, oh, that's terrible. How could that be good? Well, basically, it was played in the 15th century, and one of the reasons why I'd like to show it is because basically, many of the chess players on that level, like let's say 15 to 1700, played in the same way. So, Italian game is a perfect opening to study. In fact, I remember when I was younger myself, I've studied this opening system, starting with bishop c4, bishop c5, for quite some time, and it really works nice. I've played countless hours actually of studying the secrets of this position, learning these combinations, and it helped me a lot. It helped me to improve my tactical vision and to get a better idea of what are the real most important concepts and principles of every opening. So after c3, then knight f6, then white can play the move of d4, attacking the bishop and the pawn, e takes to d4, c takes to d4, and now there is usually this line of bishop to b4 with a check, so that black can actually give a check, and currently it seems like white opened the center in a premature way. His pawn is being attacked right here, and the black bishop is giving a check. So what did white did it at all? Well, the point is that now when the black bishop comes to b4 with a check, what white wants to do is to even sacrifice it with knight c3. Why do we make such a sacrifice when we don't have enough pieces to develop to attack? That's what we call a gambit. The gambits can really help you to improve your opening knowledge and master it in a much faster and better way. There are many books on the gambits, but what gambits really teach you is a lot of the principles and most important concepts of development, leading an attack, or making a stronger initiative. They can teach you how you can basically follow the rules and yet receive very powerful positions still from the very early opening. Gambit means an opening with which you sacrifice a pawn or even two sometimes in order to develop your pieces faster than your opponent and attack him or make some difficulties against his own development. When we do that, usually that kind of a temporary initiative turns out to be a very dangerous attack. And when white plays knight c3, knight takes e4, castling on the short side. Now white is developing his piece with tempi. Tempo is an extra move that we get, and now he's leaving black to win a pawn, but as we can see now, both the white and the black knights are hanging, so black is forced to exchange, losing one more tempo so that he cannot castle. And then after b takes to c3, bishop takes to c3, okay, black won another pawn, but his king, the most important piece in the game, is still standing in the middle. That is enough for white to take advantage and create even more threats, which again and again and again don't let black to develop his pieces and castle, and of course his attack becomes decisive. Queen b3 is the right move, and now we see a double attack both against the bishop and the pawn out there. The only possibility for black to stay safe is to capture the rook, of course, otherwise he will lose his bishop. White sacrificed too much, it seems. Many of you will say, oh, I am not doing that, that's just horrible. I lost my rook just yet, and I have nothing more to follow it. Don't be worried. There's bishop takes f7 with a check. The king comes back to f8, and then white follows with the immediate move of bishop up to g5, attacking the queen. The black knight needs to come back to the e7, and then white's knight comes up to e5 directly. Look at this now. All the white pieces, his two bishops, his powerful knight, and especially the queen, are now involved into the attack against the black king. None of the black extra pieces, like the rook, the bishop, even the queen, can really get involved and somehow transfer themselves in order to protect or support the black king's side defense. It's terrible. As soon as knight e5 goes, what black decides is to capture the d4 pawn with his bishop, but unfortunately he doesn't do anything. What white played now, it was bishop to g6, opening the route, and of course the f7 square for the queen to checkmate. Black played d5, because no matter which pace the knight or the bishop he takes, the other one remains. Black can't take the two paces in the same time. So he's got to prevent eventually the queen from making a checkmate, but not enough. That's really not enough. White plays queen to f3 with a check, then bishop f5, otherwise in case the king moves there is a checkmate from here. The bishop interposes, then bishop takes f5, bishop takes e5, bishop e6 for the check, and then the black bishop blocked in there, because otherwise king e8